I'm just excited to talk about Gerard Butler.
Okay.
Gerard Butler's butt, because I don't know another time that we're going to be able to do this.
No.
So it's great.
Well, he started off as a proper actor.
Oh, did he?
I mean, we saw him in Mrs. Brown. He's properly acting in this one.
He sure is.
Yeah, he's not the machine gun preacher that he turns into.
So good.
So...
Yeah, he didn't pick up his guns for a while.
He didn't, but he was developing those guns. That's what he was doing. He was doing it on the sly. busting nuts and fucking building guns, Become the beefcake that he is today.
He is a beefcake.
He is a fucking beefcake.
Yeah. God bless Gerard Butler. Well, hello there. Welcome to On the Beat, the podcast that uncovers full frontal male nudity in cinema. My name is Laura, and I am joined by my co-host, Ryan.
God save the Queen!
Save the Queen!
My co-turkey.
Yeah, I don't mean that. I'm just quoting lines from the movie. I am a staunch anti-monarchist, I would say.
That was creepy.
Yeah. It was creepy.
I didn't like how it fit. I didn't feel good on
Well,
you.
the thing is, like, when Billy Connolly does it, I can't really take it seriously either. It's just him running around the dark woods with a handgun.
Wow. Professionalism at an all-time low. How dare you?
Here's the fucking issue, right? I'm here, I do all the technical stuff, I've got so many things, you just have to come here and talk.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm very important.
Yeah, right, okay, well...
We are here to talk about the 1997 drama Mrs. Brown.
Mrs. Brown.
Starring Judi Dench, Billy Connolly, Geoffrey Palmer, Anthony Sher, and Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
This film was directed by John Madden, and if you please, I will drop that synopsis on you real hard right now.
Okay.
From Letterboxd.
Please.
When Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, dies, she finds solace in her trusted servant, Mr. John Brown, but their relationship also brings scandal and turmoil to the monarchy.
I would say, like, if my first cousin who I was sleeping with and was married to died, I'd be like, whoa, I just dodged a bullet. Like, nobody found out, like, how horrible this incestual relationship had become.
Well,
but then that's just the royal family.
Common.
Yeah, that's the royal family. Like, they breed within their own ranks.
They want to keep it close. Keep it
keep
tight.
It close. Keep those diseases close. Keep all of those blood-borne diseases nice and close. And it's gross. Like, I mean, if you look, like, they all have, like, massive foreheads. And they're all, like, well, I mean, albeit, you don't want to talk about some of the strifes because legally we wouldn't have a leg to stand on because they have lots of money and they're able to cover up a lot of things. But yeah, they've got massive foreheads and receding hairlines before the time they hit like fucking 20 years old.
Inbreeders.
Yes,
right?
Fucking sausage fingers. Although he's the king now. He finally got there. He's like, yeah, his wife,
long enough.
His mother kicked the bucket, and he's now got his fucking sausage fingers around those crown jewels. So
okay, ew.
Yeah.
So the tagline for this film is loyalty without question, friendship without equal.
Yeah, I have a few questions about that. I don't hate this film, but I also am like his blind. Like obligation, I question somewhat. Certainly as a Scotsman, where I'm just
he's one of the rare Scotsmen in history.
Gave a fuck, yeah.
That cared about a monarch.
Shit, yeah. I mean, by the end of the film, anyway, he appears to be fucking delirious. So I can just assume that he just went a bit mad.
So that's your opinion, and I know we'll get into it, but I feel like he's a bit of a ladder climbing dick. Rather than being very much caring for this woman in her time of grief and need. He's more an opportunist.
Potentially. You could look at it that way.
Maybe he was an opportunist that grew to care for somebody, but it also makes me think that maybe Queen Victoria is someone that likes to be told what to do.
Yeah, potentially. Well, she's someone
likes to be
who
bossed around.
Yeah, she does a lot of bossing. What's her name? Victoria Regina or something? Isn't that her? The VR? Isn't that what that refers to?
Yeah, and
whatever.
I mean that's also her second. Her middle name is Victoria.
Right.
Her first
okay.
name is something else longer.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't need to get into that. We're talking about films here.
That's right.
That's right. Fictitious stories, except
And before
this one's not really that fictitious.
Oh yeah, I've got facts, baby. I love a bit of history.
Talking about going mad, though. Do you want to get some mad over some Madden?
John Madden's up in here.
John Madden. Wasn't John Madden, wasn't he, big with the NFL? Wasn't there a John Madden with the NFL?
Yes. Yes, there was.
Yeah.
This is a different guy. This is a guy that likes
dude.
to make films about older people, getting together and having a good time.
So I remember hearing of John Madden, and I think this is maybe the 80th time I've brought up the book, but Down in Dirty Pictures, that Peter Biskin book, Madden's mentioned in that because obviously Mrs. Brown was released through Miramax at the time, and then obviously John Madden did the massively successful Shakespeare in Love, so that was also a really big hit for Miramax too. Another
time where Judi Dench played a queen.
Yeah, she can't seem to, I mean, she's obviously typecast.
She played Elizabeth I in that movie.
But let's continue onward. Well, who else played Elizabeth I? Kate Blanchett in those Elizabeth movies.
Hell yeah, she did.
Those, what's his name? Sanjit Kapoor? I think he directed those. Those are really nice movies. I think we'll talk about what our favorite, let's say, royalty films are maybe during the course of this podcast.
Helen Mirren do it as well.
The Queen. I like the Stephen Frears The Queen. I know some people don't like it.
Oh, yeah.
But one of your boys plays Tony Blair.
Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen plays Tony Blair. Hell
yeah, he does.
I like that because I grew up during that moment in history, and I remember seeing firsthand how people reacted to the death of Diana firsthand, including my own mother. I remember, actually, this is a bit of a tangent. This is pretty funny. Me and my brother were up really early in the morning. I think it was 5 or 6. And I remember we had something on the TV and we were playing with toys or something like that. Because I think this was when did that happen? 97, 96 maybe, when Princess Diana died. So we would have only been. I don't remember. We would have both have been under 10 years old. So we're just watching something on the TV. I remember my mum bursting into the room and she turns on the channel to the news, and it's the news that Diana had died, and she just goes, "Oh my God!" And we got a fright, as you might have expected.
1997.
97. Okay, well then I would have only have been 12. Yeah, so I was over 10 years old. But that was a moment. That's a moment I will remember.
Yeah, scary.
Very scary. But let's talk about John Madden. Let's get mad about some Madden.
Yeah.
So, every time I've seen his name, I just associate it with American football. But this is a man who's done some directing. So he's an English director of stage, film, television, and radio. And obviously I pointed out Shakespeare in Love, which is his most successful film, which won Best Picture in 98, but he did lose Best Director to Spielberg for... What did you think he would have won Best Director for in 98, Laura?
98?
98. It's a film you haven't seen of his, and I'm surprised that you have a film podcast and you haven't seen this film yet.
It's the one with the war.
Yes, the war one.
It's not Band of Brothers. It's Saving Private Ryan.
There you go.
Yeah,
yes.
I've not seen that film.
Yes, the Matt Damon one. It's the Tom Hanks. It's Tom Hanks looking for Matt Damon in what many thought was quite an unbelievable scenario, but it's still one of the most affecting war films ever. So I do understand how Spielberg would have won the Oscar for that one. But Shakespeare in Love did win the Silver Bear at the 49th Berlinale. I think they call it the Berlinale. Otherwise, it's the Berlin Film Festival. I've been to the Berlinale before. It's nice.
Fancy guy.
So John Madden also shared the same house for a spell with Roger Mitchell. And do you know who Roger Mitchell is? He's a director as well.
That name sounds familiar.
Yes, he did. He's done some films. I'm trying to remember specifically because he directed Changing Lanes. I remember he did a film called Enduring Love with Rhys Ifans
Oh, I love
and
that movie.
Daniel Craig. Yes, what's the one with Julia Roberts?
Oh, is it the one where with also Rhys Ifans?
Yes,
and
I think
Hugh Grant and
yes.
Notting Hill.
I think Notting Hill. Yes, I think
Right
that's
there.
the one. Roger Mitchell has also went on to direct films, and he shared a house with John Madden. So maybe you could look him up and get some more.
You've been correct so far.
Okay, good. What else has he done?
I mean, Notting Hill is his most famous.
Of course.
There's a Rachel McAdams and Harrison Ford movie called Morning Glory.
Mm-hmm.
He did a version of Persuasion, Changing Lanes you mentioned.
Yeah, I like Changing Lanes. That's that Ben Affleck, Samuel L. Jackson.
Thriller?
Thriller. It's like rich white guy against deprived black man, and they have a rivalry against each other. So it's very much about race. It's weird. It's a weird one.
Changing lanes, trading places.
Yeah, kinda. It always involves race, though, doesn't it? Like it's always kind of just like, what will the audience understand? It's like, here we go. It's weird. I don't really understand it. It's like, here's an impoverished black man. Here's a rich white dude. It's like, okay.
Well, let's destroy
weird.
the white man.
Yeah, well, that's what
It's
Changing
time.
Lanes is about.
It's time.
Yeah, well, that reminds me of what's his? Who's the guy from? It's from Radiohead. Who's it? The
Tom York.
Tom York. He did a speech. I don't know when, but he did a speech in regards to like how people view people, like folk who wear like the hijab and stuff like that. And he said, the only people that have ever caused me any level of strife in my life have been people in suits, like men in suits. So like when the banks needed bailed out, they were in suits. When we were all struggling during austerity, there were men in suits. So like they were like, well, why are we banning people wearing the hijab when we should be banning people who are wearing suits? Because that's where obviously all the strife and the issues come in from from modern world. Yeah, I thought that is correct. You are correct. Although that's obviously not to take away from the fact that there are still terror things going on in the world. Anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, there's some really bad shit.
Yeah, there's some really bad stuff.
John Madden.
Bad people are bad people. Let's just put it that way. So, he started working TV. So I've listed down here Helen Mirren's Prime Suspect 4, because I think Prime Suspect 4, that was like the fourth series of that, and that's when he joined. He also did episodes of Adventures of Sherlock Holmes and also Inspector Morse as well.
Nice.
Which are all back home, very popular shows during the late 80s into the 90s. And we'll just kind of get into his films, and I do recognize quite a few of these.
I bet some of them are an exotic hotel.
I mean, there's two of them. Yeah, I don't like those films.
I love that shit. Give me some like a chatty older
fucking
folks.
saccharine sweet
Love
nonsense. Yeah. So in 93 he made Ethan Frome. In 94 he made Golden Gate. In 97 he made Mrs. Brown, which is what we're looking at. He followed that up with Shakespeare in Love in 98, Captain Corelli's Mandolin in 2001, Proof in 2005, Kill Shot 2008, The Debt 2010. Then in 2012 and 2015, you have The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, and then The Second Best Exotic Marigold Hotel,
Nice.
which I hate.
Nice.
Miss Sloane, which was that Jessica Chastain movie in 2016, and then a film that I'm actually interested in seeing because I'm interested in the book is a film from 2022 called Operation Mincemeat, which was a book by Ben McIntyre about the true story of British espionage during the Second World War, where they take a man's body, give it a false identity, and then place the body over enemy lines so that they think that some certain people are dead. And and then they're able to infiltrate. It's very interesting. So I would be interested to see the film version of that book.
Wow.
But yeah, that covers John Madden, the crazy American football English film director guy. As you can probably tell from like the sort of stuff that he makes, like I don't know if like you want to do like a James Ivory with this one, because I guess like, you know, Ivory has his little pocket, and we do like Ivory. Madden also has like his little pocket as well, where it feels very much, it feels quite classical. And I would say Mrs. Brown is quite classical filmmaking. You know, it's
a period drama, so you kind of have these...
You have these parallels, these comparisons and stuff that you end up making. I don't think Mrs. Brown is a particularly exceptional film, but it does, like, there's parts of it that are nice. You know, most of it is set up in Balmoral for the most part. So there's some lovely scenery and there's some nice things about it, but you're not really getting anything other than just, here is a telling of the story. And here's two fantastic actors telling you this story. There's not a bad character in the piece, really.
No,
Judi Dench and Billy Connolly are effectively
chewing it up.
They're hoisting this thing up.
So before we go too far, I wanted to tell you that Queen Victoria's real first name is Alexandrina, and Regina is Latin for like queen. So it's not her name. And I was just trying to get there. I'm like, wait, no, that means queen in Latin. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay.
Before we went
too
far.
It's history of the monarchy. Like I just tune out, really. There are going to be people who listen to this podcast who are going to be fans of the monarchy. I'm really sorry, but
well, then they'll like this film.
They'll hopefully like this film. You might not like my commentary on it, but you might like this film.
Yeah, no, the film is sticking within the lines of being polite.
It's very polite.
And not wanting to delve into the goss and the tabloid nature of their relationship. So they keep it really, really, really safe.
It's incredibly sedate.
They do tend to blame that on the fact that John Brown's diaries were all destroyed. Also, Queen Victoria's, all of her diaries were edited by her youngest daughter, Beatrice. So getting the truth and getting the real story of what was going on, she would obviously, as a queen, kept her cards close to her chest. Like, did she bone this man? I mean, he's like a good looking dude.
Yeah. I like to think that they probably didn't.
You like to think that?
I like to think that.
Judi Dench in this film is a lot, as a human being, she's older than the character that she's portraying, because Queen Victoria at this point where she meets again John Brown is probably around 45 years old. Okay. Judi Dench is obviously a little bit older than that.
Yeah.
So you think that someone at 42, after years and years of hanging out with this cool Highland dude, isn't gonna take a peek? I don't know.
I'm not saying that she might not have taken a peek. I'm like...
It could have been more of a nice, really intense love for one another without it being physical. That's also very possible.
I mean, I also just don't want to, like, imagine, like, the queen fucking...
Okay.
Like, some dude... Like, I have zero... Like, I want the monarchy to, like, sit on a shelf, like, Russian dolls and shit. Like,
Looking at the cover of this film, I wanted them to pork. That's what I was expecting.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't, because I didn't want to feel uncomfortable.
Not okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to feel uncomfortable. Because I watched the film and I don't know if I really felt too much about it, but at the same time it was like, oh well, I didn't feel like an hour and 44 minutes was taken away from me either. So it's a weird experience. It's kind of like, it's like being on drugs, but like not hard drugs. Just like the sort of drugs that make you feel a little sleepy. And then when you get to the end of that experience, you feel perfectly fine. And you can just kind of get on with your day and it didn't really affect you that much. It's like a tiny dab of heroin.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is... Jeez. This is Gerard Butler's feature film debut.
Oof.
And in fact was his very first audition.
Aw.
So, Jerry Butler graduated from law school. He went to law school and completed law school, got a degree.
Wow.
Then he moved and started training in Edinburgh, but he was partying way too much, and they fired him. So then he was like, you know what? I'm going to do something different. He calls up his mom. He's like, Mom, I'm moving to London. I'm going to be an actor. Aren't you so proud of your son?
Oof.
And
Fuck.
his very first acting role, you know, not in a feature film, was in a stage production of Trainspotting.
Okay, I think I've heard this before. Yeah, I think I've heard this.
Also, I think it was during one of his off days of shooting Mrs. Brown, he was having a picnic with his mother at Taymouth Castle, and he heard someone yelling that their friend was in trouble, and this kid was drowning in the water. And Jerry Butler jumped in and saved this 14-year-old kid's life.
Oh, Jerry. Oh, good for you.
And he also recently went to his wedding.
Wow.
They kept in touch.
What the fuck? Like, what is he like? Say, like, what? He's just a stand-up dude.
He's just
like
a good man. He's just a good beefcake man.
He's from Scotland.
Is that all the men? All the men from Scotland.
No,
are good
and all the men
men
from Scotland are like. Well, no, I'm not going to say everyone from Scotland is a good man or a beefcake.
Yeah.
But there is a higher percentage likelihood that if you get a man from Scotland, they're more than likely going to be good. So there's a higher percentage of that happening. Because, you know, it's like when you go to buy like antibacterial spray, it kills 99.9% of bacteria. You don't get the full 100%, but for the most part, it might as well be 100%. So that's like a Scotsman.
Did you hear it, ladies?
Yeah, get yourselves a Scotsman.
Yeah.
There's tons of us. And also we live for a really long time. So like there's longevity in there. Also we can open jars. Like we can do all sorts of things. Like cuz we're
so handy.
We're kind of like we're rough and tumble. Like we're outside in the elements most of the time, or at least I remember being. Like I don't want to put myself out there as like a tradesman or anything like that, but like, you know, I've been out in some rain.
You've been outside?
I've been outside, definitely.
You've definitely
I've
been
climbed
out there.
some hills and shit. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. I would climb more hills, but there isn't any in Florida because Florida is just flat and it's swampland. So
yeah.
And you don't go out walking in that. You might as well just try and remove your skin after doing that because of all the bugs and stuff. But yeah, get yourselves a Scotsman, ladies.
There you go.
Yeah, get yourselves a Scotsman.
He knows a few.
Yeah.
Get in touch. Theatrically, this film was released as Her Majesty Mrs. Brown. So Mrs. Brown, I was confused about why it was called Mrs. Brown because I go, isn't this about Queen Victoria? But that was...
Well, the Prime Minister calls her Mrs. Brown.
Yeah, it's a joke.
It's a joke.
They're like making fun of how close she is to Mr. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, bit of hot gossip there.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting players in this film. I mean, we have Geoffrey Palmer, he's like the royal consort, basically.
Henry Ponsonby?
Yes, Ponsonby, is that his fucking name?
Ponsonby. Yeah.
Fuck, what a walloper. Ponsonby. Well, Geoffrey Palmer and Judi Dench both starred in a British TV show. I don't know if you know about this. Show called As Time Goes By. I watched many episodes of that. Yeah, it went on for 10 fucking seasons, or 10 series, we should say. Just thought I'd bring that up there because I was just like, oh, it's that guy with her in that show from God knows how long ago.
Henry Ponsonby was Queen Victoria's private secretary.
No,
so he was the right.
He was not the royal consort. He was
not a royal consort. Certainly not
the secretary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
This is the second time that Judi Dench has played Queen Victoria. Okay. So they like to call it an unofficial sequel. Ha ha ha. Whatever. Doesn't matter. 2017's Victoria and Abdul.
Okay, yeah.
It's like, because she plays Queen Victoria, it's got to be a sequel. It has nothing to do with it. That's fucking stupid. But Victoria and Abdul, I've seen that film, and it's fine. It's not bad. And I mentioned before, she played Elizabeth I in Shakespeare in Love. So she's very frequently wanting to play A queen.
She loves it, but I bet she loves it.
Yeah.
You get to play a queen.
She's got that face.
Yeah, but with none of the incestual diseases.
Absolutely.
It's great. Yeah, so we got also, we talk about Gerard Butler. The only other prime Scotsman we're talking about here is Billy Connolly, the big yin, as it were.
I thought maybe you would do more research on Billy Connolly here, but Billy Connolly already at this point is incredibly famous.
Yeah.
And has an incredibly long career behind and ahead of him.
Yeah.
So Gerard Butler was his start, so I thought I would delve a little bit deeper into him.
I mean, I don't really have anything about Billy Connolly, because the thing is, it's like, yeah, I mean, I could talk about Billy Connolly for hours. I do have like one of my favorite of his jokes, because he was a stand-up comedian. He worked on the shipyards in Glasgow, and he got his start working as a stand-up comedian because folk found him funny.
Adorable.
One of my favorite of his jokes was you get up on the stage and he's just like, imagine a cross dresser, and it's just him like angrily putting clothes on. Which I thought was funny. But I don't know, like, where is this in relation? Because he also ends up in the Boondock Saints as well, which is another one of those Miramax joints.
Oh yeah.
I hate that movie. I really dislike it quite intently. The documentary about the making of was his name, Troy Duffy. That film is well worth watching, about his decline.
Boondock Saints was 2 years later. It was in '99.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, fucking Boondock Saints.
I didn't think that movie was that bad. I don't remember it that well.
It's completely forgettable for the most part.
Willem Dafoe's
and
in
there's
it.
also okay, that's fine. I mean, he's also like really hamming it up in that movie as well, because he has to, because the fucking material is so thin.
I'm gonna watch Boondock Saints later.
You should. You know what you should do? You should watch. There's a documentary about Troy Duffy, who was the writer and director of Boondock Saints.
Maybe
it was
I will.
called. I can't remember. You can figure it out.
I'm like
just keep on talking.
your quiz answer person today.
You are, yeah. It's early in the morning. I've been up late. I'm still doing stuff. We've been updating and doing all sorts of stuff to like the website and for other things. And I also, I work full time as well. So
the
it's
2003 documentary Overnight.
Yeah, that film is so fucking good. Okay. It's made by basically
you have that, don't you?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite documentaries of all time. Yeah, no, it's fascinating.
Recently made a spreadsheet of our physical media, so it'll be easy for me to find it.
Yes, you can. You'll find it.
Thank you, Google Sheets.
You'll find it. Yeah, I watched it recently, and I wouldn't mind watching it again. So when you decide
now I have to wait.
When you decide to put it on, let's put it on together.
So the film starts off with some background, just so you know where we are in time and space.
Yeah,
Queen Victoria ascended to the English throne in 1837. She was only 18 years old. You do it, you say it.
At least she wasn't 14 years old.
Let's just say it like she was 18.
She was only 18 years old.
Thank you. Yeah. She married Prince Albert 2 years later, and in 1861 he passed away, and she was very sad. She was sad.
She will not be consoled.
Forever.
Yeah, she refused to be consoled.
As John Brown says in this film, no one's here to tell her that she can't act like a little bitch. So
I guess, yeah.
That's his job.
Yeah.
So since the Queen is so sad, they decided to bring in Prince Albert's old friend from Balmoral to hang out with the Queen and be the leader of the Queen's pony.
Yeah.
That's his job.
He's a nice pony.
I think that's just a horse, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
They called it the pony.
The pony.
Well, it might be a Shetland pony.
It's very big.
It's also very big, so I don't know. I'm not
Maybe
too sure.
Maybe that's a type of nickname for.
Maybe. Well, you know what you know what these higher ups are like. They're like, it's a pony. It's like, just call it a horse. Like, as a horse, get the horse. Like it's no difficult. Just get the fucking horse. Like.
Well, Billy Connolly, John Brown gets in trouble immediately for speaking to the Queen as if he's her friend.
Yeah, it's
which he's just going, you must be so sad that your husband's dead. You must miss him dearly.
And she is. And she's beside herself, and she's like, I don't have to deal with this. And
how dare you talk to me like a person?
Yeah.
I'm not a person.
It's like, I like the course in which this story goes, where John Brown is intent on like dismantling the icy layers of Queen Victoria to just get her to enjoy life a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the sum total of what we are getting with this story. But, you know, there's the offset, because obviously we have Archie, which is Gerard Butler, who's John Brown's brother. He is obviously the sounding plate who's just like, you can't trust her. She's going to dump you like she's dumped everybody else.
Yeah.
You can't believe what she's saying. And I mean, I guess...
He seems a little delusional, at least, John Brown. I mean, he is and he isn't, because she does and she doesn't.
He's a realist, and he's like set in his ways, and he's like he's a salt of the earth kind of guy. Like, he knows the Highlands, and he knows his role, and no one can play his role better than he can. But like you mentioned earlier, like, he is trying to upward the ranks. He supersedes authority.
And he does mean things to the people that work in the household, which I don't think is cool.
He does treat he does treat some of them like shit.
He treats everyone like shit.
Yeah.
Everyone, even his brother.
And he drinks a little bit too much. So there is that. But he's effectively creating, like, his attitude means that he ends up creating these rifts within the ranks of the authority that's already kind of set, like the set order that's already here within the servants, right? So he comes in there, and I guess things will transpire so that people are conniving against him, because of how close he is to Victoria.
Yeah.
And for the most part, like, albeit some moments, in a moment, obviously, that we're going to be speaking about, it's very dry. Like, the film itself is incredibly dry. But it's not uninteresting. It's a hard thing to kind of, like, put my finger on. But there is an element of it where it does feel a little sleepy, but it's still interesting enough to run for its runtime. So it's a weird one. It's
really, I definitely, like I said before, didn't expect Mr. Brown to be a bit of a dick, but it made it a little bit more interesting, because you're not just watching, this lovely man who's come to help this woman who is sad, and they become best friends and everything goes really well. He's more just kind of a really rough person. He's like hard to get along with.
He's a no-nonsense. Like, he just kind of comes in and he's just like, buck your ideas up, woman, and basically is like, you need to get back to...
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I guess so. It's like, you just need to get back into life, like living life.
If Albert was here, he'd want you to be out riding horses. If he was here, he'd want you to, like, get out of the house.
Which is like an oxymoron, because it's like, well, you can say things like that, but Albert's not fucking here. So you can say all those things. I mean, that's fine, but I'm also kind of like, there's like, at least even though I don't respect it, like, I understand, like, this level of authority. And he can't just walk into a room and be like, well, your husband, and I don't care if she's the queen or not, your husband would have wanted you to do this. I'd be like, fuck off.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm like,
I mean, he's probably not wrong.
Like,
well, no, that's not true, because if I passed away, I'd want you to be miserable forever.
Well, joke's on you, motherfucker, because I'll finally get out of it, I guess. No, I don't know how I'll fucking react. That's a horrible thing that I now have to think about. Like, why did you do that? That's fucked up.
There is a moment when she does start getting out, because Mr. Brown's very headstrong.
Yeah.
And he keeps standing out in the courtyard with her pony, and she's like, get him out of there. Stop letting him stand out in the courtyard. It's bothering me. I don't want to go riding, until she eventually is like, fine, I'll go. But then it starts getting her out of the house more, and there's a moment where she goes, oh, I want to go swimming. Mr. Brown says the water will be good for me. And it's one of those moments where I really like seeing period appropriate swimming outfits.
Yeah.
That are so insane. So
like waving a balloon.
Yeah, it's in the like in the 1860s, women wore bathing dresses.
Yeah.
So they're like long sleeve tunics with bloomers, corsets, with beach shoes and a little cap that were made out of wool or flannel that would not float when wet.
Of course not. I would
So
sink.
it's just a woolen anchor. God, you're wearing a wooden or a woolen anchor to go swimming.
Yeah, it's a weird moment. I understand why that swimming scene is there, because we do have another scene later on, which is almost the direct opposite of this. Because like you're looking obviously at like this one moment of people swimming, which is like this one's laced in conservatism, and that water looks freezing fucking cold. Like it looks unwelcoming.
No, it looks horrible.
It looks horrible. But at least in like the scene that comes after, there's a lot more to it, and you're kind of just like, it has a little bit more of a bounce to it, which I think is obviously kind of the, what they're going for.
Yeah, you have the buttoned up monarchy, and then you have the everyman that's just living life. Yeah.
I mean, he is living life. I kind of feel like, and this is also the thing, is like, he's a man who has, he has everything he wants in front of him. And I feel like with his insertion into the monarchy and into this woman's life, like a little piece of him is like his dedication and his obligation to her. Like, I do feel like he wastes his life a little bit.
Yeah.
At least in the latter part of this time. And I mean, that might be a fucking horrible, shitty thing to say, but like, he did waste his time on this woman. And she treated him like fucking garbage. As much as he might be a bit of a dick, he's still kind of, I'm still looking at it and I'm like, oh,
well, you can see from when he arrives in the Isle of Wight till the end.
Yeah.
Where he's having more fun, and then he stops having fun later because all he's worried about is the queen. All he's worried about is himself and his station and how he's perceived and how she's perceived, and all that that's all he cares about. But in the beginning, he's seeing his brother and having a good time, as he is in our penis scene.
I mean, I would also, just before we get into that, I would also point out that, like, he already states how little of a life he actually has. Like, he has no family. So, for me, like, if to see him as, like, a dick who's, like, objecting to authority, he's kind of inserting himself into the primary roles of this service, it's probably because he has nothing else. Like, the minute he loses this, he has nothing other than himself and his own thoughts. And I can...
Well, it's not like it has to be that way,
No, but I feel like that's maybe where he's coming from, is like, this is all I have. Without her...
It's a warning to not throw yourself completely into your career. You gotta have interests outside of your career.
That's true. I'm still to find that, but we will see. All I do is podcast, work, and make films. I guess, like, no, actually, that's not that bad.
That seems pretty varied.
Yeah, it's not like
You're fine.
Yeah, I think so.
You're not spending 100% of your time completely devoted to me and the perception of me in the world.
Yeah, well, that's your understanding of how devoted. Yeah, of course. Yeah, because
you could spend a little bit more time doing that.
I think you've got time. No, I think I do perfectly fine. I say this at work all the time as well. I think I'm just nice enough. Like, I don't need to be any more nice to people at work.
Not to them.
I think if you get me, good for you. If you don't, then tough fucking shit. No, you know me. You've known me for years at this point now. You should understand the dynamic. You married a Scotsman. Look, we're lovely people and we're incredibly sexy. But at the same time, you have to understand that sometimes we get a little bit quiet and we end up being a little bit brooding, and we just kind of like seethe in our own thoughts, and we just like sup a pint, and we're just like that's just something that happens. Just don't fuck with us. Anyway.
Penis scene?
I had this thing I wanted to bring up where, did you hear the canned child laughter?
Oh my gosh, Ryan, that is so weird. That's so weird that you're saying that, because I was going to write it down and I go, how do I even explain? Because I can't do that laugh. But yes, when they're hanging out in like that front garden area and he's waiting with the horse or the pony, and it's that, should I try to do it? Can you?
Yeah.
It's that classic canned child laughter. Yeah. I'm sure we can find it somewhere on the internet. Maybe we can insert it.
It's like the Wilhelm scream, except it's like the Geoffrey chortle, or whatever you would call it.
That's so funny. That's so funny that you brought that up, because it was really striking, and it happened. And then there was like another canned child laugh right after that wasn't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God,
it's like it's a laugh. It's a child's laugh you've heard countless times that's been inserted into certain
That's never
things.
happened in real life.
That's never happened
No
in real
child
life.
laughs like that.
But like in context, like in that scene, it's fine. But like if it was in like, say, a dark hallway, like it would be chilling. Yeah, because it's not a good laugh. I'm glad that maybe I haven't heard it in a modern film in a while. So that's good. I think maybe they've learned not to continue using those.
If they didn't need to do
those
any
canned
child
sound
laugh
effects.
noises at all, you see the children, you get the point. But
Well, every time I think of like the idea of like child laughter, it reminds me of something Carl Pilkington said on his show, where they asked him if like something that they thought was like scary, and he went, child laughter.
yeah.
And it's kind of, it comes a little bit out of left field. It's just like, he just didn't think it was right. And I agree.
I didn't think it was
I
right.
didn't think it was right.
Amazing.
Oh dear. Right, now we're back to
I'm just twiddling my thumbs, waiting to talk about penises.
dick scene.
Okay, yay! 29 minutes and 54 seconds into this film, we have kind of the opposite of the Queen bathing scene, where we get Scottish men
It's
bathing
John,
scene.
John and Archie. They're
having
like
some fun times.
having some fun times. They're singing, they're laughing and stuff. They just strip off and they run into the water.
They sure do.
Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah, they strip naked and run into the
pretty
water.
much
It's a
it,
shot from
yeah.
behind as they're running towards the water. So
Those penises flap up and down. So
Yeah.
you see, because Billy Connolly's no stranger to getting nude and stuff in like, because he's done it in like his TV shows where he like traveled around like Australia, and he did it in Scotland and stuff like that, where he'll just like strip off and he'll go into some water and stuff like that. Like, he's done that countless times.
yeah,
Obviously with this, it's obviously Gerard Butler. Like, for me, I don't know if it's like a Scotsman thing or anything like that, but like, I wouldn't be too adverse to doing something like that, because I don't really give a shit about how I look.
It's culturally different, but it's, I don't know. It is reminiscent, like Room with a View, where there's just some guys and they're
It's
like, yeah, let's just go
cheeky.
swimming.
Yeah, it's
and
cheeky.
they don't think about it. Let's just go
Yeah.
swimming, take off our pants, and just have fun.
There's zero sexualization in it, like,
Yeah.
whatsoever. It's a bit cheeky. Like, I can understand it within the context of, say, like a British film.
Yes.
And this film's still like a PG-13 or like a parental guidance movie anyway.
Yeah.
So, there's no romantic element, and obviously, it's two brothers. I know we're talking about the monarchy. We're like, but these two brothers aren't fucking each other.
No.
But for me, it's kind of like it's relatively quite innocent. It's incredibly relatable. Like, that's something that would happen, has happened.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very casual.
Yeah, very
My
casual.
favorite type.
And you're seeing it from behind, so you're seeing things like flopping in front,
Yes.
and they're in the water. But I do like he's in the water, and there are moments where you think you see a little bit more when they're in the water. Certainly Billy Connolly and everything, because we see it more from the front. But you don't really see anything. And he's singing like "My Heart's in the Highlands."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice moment. And between the two brothers, because they've, Archie's there as someone who's trying to introduce him into this world and into this idea of service, in inverted commas. But then obviously John's not really adhering to the already quite set rules and parameters that are let's say ancient. Let's say, because nothing has changed from, say, the 1800s, from, say, the rule of thumb from the 1600s. So, it's the same traditions and things. So I guess this is a moment that's, I mean, it's one of the few light-hearted moments in the film, which is something I kind of quite appreciate, because for the most part, it's quite dour and it can feel a little bit dark. Because
Right.
I guess they're trying to make a contrast between, you know, the bubble that she's effectively like housed herself after Albert's death. Brown comes in and he's taking her outside, so we see some more of that, and then she starts to understand the fact that by taking herself out of this kind of this prison that she's had, she's starting to see the other things. So like obviously the lighthearted nature of going outside and things like that. For me, it's obvious that like this moment, this dick sequence here is just to kind of highlight the fact that these are two very different people, and their view on life and of the future and things are very different. And John Brown, to me, as much as you might think, oh, he's a bit of a dick, he's got a greater lust for life, and the sadder tragedy of the story is that lust for life starts to diminish because he basically attaches himself to this quite cold woman. And he starts to be more insular, as opposed to feeling like he has a level of freedom, you know, where he sets up barriers for himself that he's not able to continue the way that he originally was. So
these two scenes happen, you know, with the Queen, and then with Archie and John Brown happen really close to each other. So you're just setting up that dichotomy of the differences between their two characters.
Yeah.
And also just kind of showing again the relationship that he has with his brother.
Yeah.
That does fizzle out a bit eventually.
It does, yeah.
So
it's a real shame.
They actually filmed that scene in November.
Fuck.
Mm-hmm. And they had ambulances waiting nearby because they were constantly, you know, they ran into the water, and that's one thing. But then they're talking outside of the water, and they had to be constantly doused. So they were wet all the time while they were filming. So the ambulance were waiting nearby because it was freaking freezing cold. And Butler had the onset of hypothermia by the time that they were done shooting that scene. He ended up being fine, but yeah, he did have to get checked out.
Yeah, that's rough.
To make sure he wasn't going to be incredibly ill. So he's like, great first film.
Filmmaking, guys.
Fun.
Cinema.
And it's so funny, I don't really have a lot after that, except...
I basically have very little, other than we just kind of wrap up the story.
Yeah, well, you can tell everyone, the people that work for the household, the public, I mean, the monarchy's in danger at this point, kind of as it has been for a long time. But everyone's annoyed at their relationship because they think that John Brown has too much influence over her, and she kind of does whatever he says. Yeah. And then he kind of becomes like the mouth of the Queen. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. The public people were annoyed when she was sad. And now they're annoyed that she's feeling better. Yeah. So there's no winning in the situation. You know, you could just let them have a nice time. Mm-hmm. But Mr. Brown's a bit of a dick, so he's kind of put a target on his back. Yeah. For that, because he definitely didn't make any friends.
Well, there's all sorts of things that happen. Like, he gets attacked. You know, obviously there's the escalating public opinion. John Brown's then influenced by the then Tory Prime Minister, who comes over there and has like private chats with him and stuff to basically try and coax Victoria back into public service. Because effectively she's been out of service for, let's say, like 4 years, 3 years or something like that by this point. At which point I would also be like, we're fucking paying your fucking bills, so get your ass on that stage and fucking show yourself. But then she makes herself a target because of the nature of how she's like enclosed herself. So like there's assassination attempts, John, basically, because of the illness that he then develops, it's like he's almost in a state of delirium. Like, he's not able to look after himself. He gets attacked. It's obviously like a planned attack from, we're not 100% sure, from outside sources. Could be the service staff, could be anybody. And he still feels this level of dedication to this woman, even after she's abandoned him, treated him as and after like the assassination attempt, like that's one of the greater insults of the film in general, is that she dedicates a particular medal to him, and it's in regards to service,
his devoted
service, when really the thing is like they're meant to be best friends, and she is treating him like a consort, like someone that she can confide in, like a friend, effectively, because she doesn't really have that. She has people that serve her, but she doesn't have anyone that she can talk to. She doesn't really like her children. Her children are
they're a bit petulant.
Adult
children.
And the people who are serving her are trying to do things in her best interests without really consulting her. So for the most part, she's effectively a prop for the nation to parade around, but her attitude's fucking terrible. But then you also have John Brown, whose dedication and loyalty to her is not being reciprocated by the friendship. And then effectively what happens is he just gets sick. They kind of reconcile a little bit, and then he just fucking dies. And I kind of think like the end of the film, to me, it's a little bit hard to stomach. It kind of just like, it happens.
It's very quick. It's hard to know what really transpired, if it was really that stark at the end, or if, because the way that she talks about him and the way she talked about him, in reality, is so admiring and loving, and she's just pouring affections upon this man. Like, she wanted to write a book about him, and everyone's like, don't do that. Just stop. Leave it alone.
Yeah, just the whole thing, like, to everybody, like, they just bury it. Like, they just bury his existence of that last kind of repeating years. And they do, I mean,
the movie starts off with his bust that she had commissioned of him
being thrown off
the top of a wall.
Well, it was thrown off by the son,
yeah,
who at one point got pmonia or whatever, got typhoid fever or something, and then survives. But he also has a deep disliking for John Brown. Again, he's a petulant child, but at the same,
who ended up becoming king and becoming a really popular king for like 10 years.
I mean, yeah, well done. I mean, it's the tallest dwarf in the circus, really. I mean, really care? Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have the monarchy regardless. Because again, they continue to breed. But the thing is like, the film just kind of ends, and there is that controversial moment where you do see Geoffrey Palmer's character with John Brown's book, which I think is definitely it's the filmmaker's nod of like, they just secretly got rid of the diary, obviously, when really there's no proof otherwise that anything like that happened. I mean, who is really to know the true story behind these two individuals? It's all from third-hand accounts anyway.
So there was an article I was reading, I believe it was in the New York Times. There was a historian who was digging a little bit deeper into this relationship, because you would have imagined that if something was going on, someone would have seen it, because all the accounts that you have of anything that was maybe off, maybe a little bit too intimate, things that were going on are far off. This person said, I heard this from this person. So these second, third, fourth hand accounts of their relationship that can't be trusted.
Yeah.
That you would imagine that someone close to them would have seen something. But Victoria's doctor, Sir James Reed, it was her doctor for 20 years, who was like at her deathbed, did see something and write it down. So he wrote down, everything else has been edited. Everything else has been burned. Like John Brown's, I mean, that's true. His diary was burned.
Okay.
And all of Victoria's stuff was edited. So they kind of got rid of a lot of stuff, like especially the stuff that's in the National Archives is lock and key. You cannot get to it. And a lot of it is gone. So there's his diaries were not in the National Archives. So it was a little bit easier to get and it wasn't edited. Okay. So he wrote down, opening the door to Victoria's room on Thursday, March 22nd, 1883, he saw her flirting with John Brown as she, quote, walked a little. Brown says to her, lifting his kilt, quote, oh, I thought it was here. And she responds, lifting up her dress, quote, no, it is here.
Mm.
And yeah, so that's this weird thing where people are like, what's that? It's not hard evidence, but it does show an extreme level of intimacy because you know that he's a true Scotsman.
Yeah.
There's nothing under that kilt.
No.
I mean, there's something under that kilt.
Well, definitely there's something under that kilt. That kind of, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of like there's recordings of phone calls between Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles.
Oh God.
Of their their sex conversations. And one of them's like he wanted to be a tampon so that he could like live inside her.
It's romantic.
Yeah, it's not that romantic. It's kind of, but imagine that being said in his voice.
No,
like his sausage voice. Yeah,
so,
it's just again, it just kind of highlights that kind of level of juvenile fucking.
It's a weird, yeah.
It's awful.
Weird. The royal household called John Brown the Queen's Stallion.
Ooh.
Yep. And Victoria wrote to Mr. Brown's sister-in-law after he passed.
Okay.
And said that he was the best, the truest heart that ever beat. And you have your husband, your support. I have no strong arm now. She was very sad. She lost two dudes.
Yeah, no, that's rough. But at least you had all that money to fall back on.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So this film did relatively well, I guess, in like the awards circuit.
Yeah.
Nominated for tons and tons of things. Won quite a few things. It was nominated for the Best Film BAFTA. Dame Judi won the BAFTA for Best Actress.
Of course
and
she did.
Was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, of course.
And this was originally, from what I understand, a made-for-TV movie originally. Like, that's what they were shooting for.
Okay.
But then Weinstein,
of course,
thought, I think this could do better. I'm going to put it up on the big screens. And it ended up getting $13 million at the box office. So it ended up making money.
Yeah.
And was a hit.
It does look like, and it's definitely got the aspect ratio of something that was made for TV.
Yeah, even especially the beginning. Like
the beginning of it.
Yeah. So.
Which is fine. I mean, there is something about it that is inherently cinematic, like just the kind of the way that it looks and the way the camera moves and stuff like that. It does feel cinematic.
Yeah, I love they go up on the hills. They go up on Loch Nagar.
Yeah,
I went there. I think it must have been after we were married, you and I.
Okay.
And it's right near Balmoral.
Yeah.
And they make a whiskey there called Royal Loch Nagar.
Huh.
And it's delicious. And I went there and had a tour, and it was wonderful. And it's really expensive to get here in the States. I used to drink it all the time.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah, I mean, obviously if you go to drink whiskey in Scotland where it's produced, it is cheaper.
Yeah, no shit.
And it tastes better. So who'd have thought that? Who'd have thought that being in the country of origin for that particular thing would be better by all accounts? So
great.
I don't drink that much whiskey anymore because it affects me.
We tend. Oh, what do you mean?
Isn't it like it hurts my chest and stuff?
Oh, so it makes you drunk.
No, it doesn't.
True.
No, it hurts me. It makes me sore.
We still have it. Typically, at the end of the year, we'll buy a Christmas whiskey, and we still have most of the bottle from last year.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, whoops. We're not as heavy. We don't drink as heavy anymore.
We don't drink as heavy anymore. No, because we're getting old. We're getting old. So we need to start making fucking bank. So fucking listen and give us some fucking money.
Are you talking to our audience?
Yes. No.
I mean, sure, yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the ratings unless there's anything that you wanted to chat about.
No, I got in the canned child laughter, which I felt was quite
I'm glad
important.
You brought that up.
And just how stuffy the whole thing is. But yeah, we're here.
Great.
Let's rate this motherfucker.
Would you like to go first?
For visibility and context?
Absolutely.
I mean, I like the context, so it's probably high for me, like 4.5 or something. Because if you are running naked into the water, I don't know what. Every time we go to explain these things, it's just kind of like, let's explain human nature in the context of why this makes sense. But because it's from the back, it probably only gets like a 1 for the visibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do I need to go for the film first, or do you want?
Oh no, I
do you
can
want
go.
to do?
So you're right. The context is wonderful because it's just two lads being lads.
You don't want to wet your clothes.
No.
No, so you take them all off.
Yeah, and that's just something, and they're not
to like make
royalty.
anyone.
They're not of the monarchy. They're just a couple of dudes.
They're common men.
Yeah, just hanging out. So
ordinary
they
men.
don't need to adhere to the rules of that type of behavior. So they can just go swimming, as you would go for a quick ice dip in November.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. So
Scotland,
yeah,
it's not usually that warm.
No, never.
Never usually that warm in Scotland.
No.
There are parts of Scotland though where the water is like crystal clear, but it's like freezing. It's absolutely freezing. Yeah.
So I just all around gave it. It sounds so bad to be like 1.5, but the context is wonderful. The context works because it's casual, it's natural, it is what it is. You just can't really see it that well, but I mean, it's there.
I just don't know, like, if tonally it affects the film if we see more,
For what it is, it would be strange.
Yeah, for what it is, it would be very odd. And also, it's like, it's like you say, it's like, it's like originally conceived as something that was going to be made for TV.
And what are you going to get the camera and just like have someone on a boat or in the water standing
Pretty
there?
much, yeah.
To get them full on?
Yeah.
That would be odd.
It would be odd, and I don't know, like, thinking about it and how it would look in my head.
It looks weird.
It looks weird in my head.
Yeah.
And, like, if they did it in slow motion.
And they're, like, laughing and giggling.
Yeah, and it's in slow motion.
Running into the water.
And it's not only that, like, they're running, and it cuts at least 15 times of them basically on the same stretch of each before they hit the water.
Yeah.
And then the scene continues. It's like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It would be kind of odd. So like this is maybe an occasion where we're kind of just like it's fine the way it is.
It works also in the context of the film in terms of showing, like I said, the difference between the Queen and Mr. Brown.
Yeah, it's a moment where full frontal isn't necessary.
It isn't,
which is a weird thing for us to say.
I don't know. I think that if you're gonna have that scene, it has to be like that.
Yeah.
So otherwise, take all the swimming scenes out. It doesn't matter. If you don't have those two men running into the water naked, then there's no reason for the Queen to go swimming at all.
Yeah.
So you take out a big chunk of it
instead,
because it's not like it comes up later. Oh, how was your swim? No one talks about it.
No one talks about it.
You're just like, oh, this is literally just setting up these people.
The reason it happens is because John Brown brought it up.
He one time said, maybe you should go swimming.
Maybe you should go swimming. And then she goes swimming.
That's it.
Like that's all you need to do. He said his this, influence. So this happens. Yeah.
His influence is working, and then you see
yeah,
how two different people go swimming.
Yeah.
Obviously, she's not running the water naked. I don't necessarily...
No, I don't think anyone's ever seen her naked in general. I don't think.
Judi.
Don't even think our prince would have seen her. Her Prince Albert.
The actual Queen?
The actual Queen, yeah.
Didn't she hate having children?
Probably.
She hated pregnancy.
Probably.
Which makes sense.
But you gotta make those inbred children.
Nine children.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of kids. That's a lot of pumping.
Cousin pumping. How about the film, Ryan? What did you rate the film?
So I think we talk about it a little bit more, but I mean, I watched it years ago, like when it first kind of came out, like years and years and years ago. No, well, I wouldn't have watched it when it first came out. Well, I watched it years ago. And I liked it. Watching it now, I kind of get it and I like it. And I like the way, I like certain aspects of it, and there are things that I kind of question about it. But again, I gave it a 4 when I read it last night because again it's in that weird thing where it's like I'm not bored, but I'm also like not interested. So it's kind of in a weird sort of limbo for me. So it probably deserves more of a 3.5.
Does it just get your heartstrings going when you hear them pipes?
A little. I guess it's
the
like
scenery is gorgeous, always.
The things that elevate it are Judi Dench and Billy Connolly and the supporting cast. Like, if they weren't there, I would not give a fuck.
If the cast
I genuinely wouldn't know.
in the
If Billy
film?
Connolly's not... Well, no, that's the thing. Like, if it wasn't those people.
Right.
You know, if it wasn't Gerard Butler, if it wasn't Geoffrey Palmer, if it wasn't Judi Dench, if it wasn't Billy Elliot. Like, if it wasn't these people in it...
Billy Elliot?
Billy Connolly, sorry.
That dancing scene really got me.
The wrestling. No, but yeah, Billy Connolly. If Billy Connolly's not in it playing that character the way that he's playing it, I don't have the same level of like dislike that you have for what he does in the film.
Well, no, he's a bit of a shit. But if
I
Billy
think he's
Connolly
fine.
is
I
not
think
in
he's
this
fine.
film, then it can go fuck itself.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. So that's why I rated it as a 4, because the acting is stellar. I think the acting's great. I think he does a fantastic job of making it his own.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's just kind of a sad, tragic story, really. At the end of the day, it's just kind of sad and tragic. So I just don't think it's that bad, but it's also not like the most interesting thing in the world either. So it's kind of like a TV movie, I guess.
I agree. I gave this film a 3. I'm happy with that. I don't find it as interesting as it could have been because we do have a lot of information, albeit a lot of that information has been edited, but you have so much to work with.
It's obviously been made as something to be non-controversial.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like they're not trying to make things difficult. They're just an easy drinking story.
Yeah.
And
easy breezy.
And it is, and I think that it achieved that absolutely, because you could watch this more than once and just be like, yeah, this movie's fine. It's you know what's going on. They're not trying to go crazy and get into this potential sexual relationship or this really intimate, because you don't really get a ton of them alone really being super intimate. There's like not a ton of it. They're usually just arguing, you know?
Yeah, but you can guess like the intimacy.
I mean, that is intimate for what we're working with.
From the conservatism that they set up within the movie, and from the, I guess, like from the initial conversation that Geoffrey Palmer has with Billy Connolly, they do realize that like John Brown oversteps his bounds and people can see it happening. So like when she's on the horse, he's just like, fix your foot, woman, all this sort of thing. Like that's stuff that just no one else would be able to get away with, but he's just able to.
Yeah.
So there are levels of intimacy within the film. We just don't have to see the full-blown stuff.
Yeah, if it existed,
which is just like, I'm not fucking interested in that, to be fair.
I'm a little interested, but it's okay.
It's like...
That's not the movie. This isn't the
movie. Makes
me
feel a little bit slimy thinking about
it. So, yeah.
Movies.
Mrs. Brown, we wanted to bring you a nice... easy breezy movie for
this was one of mine.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, this was one of mine.
You brought this. You brought this to me. Yeah,
I brought this to you. I said Mrs. Brown's definitely one, and you're like, "Is it?" And I'm like, "Yep."
Well, we thought around Thanksgiving we'd give people some nice scenery.
Yeah,
something not too long.
Nice stuff. It's on Showtime.
Yep.
So you can watch it there. It's just, you know what? It's fine, and
you could watch it with the fam if you
wanted.
Fine,
and like you can. You know what? It's incredibly unadulterated. Like it's just a nice little story. Yeah, it's just, you might like it, you might not, but you're not gonna hate it. But you're probably not gonna love it. It's kind of somewhere in the middle.
Great. Wow. Well, thank you for having this chat with me, Ryan, and bringing Scotland back into the mix.
I mean, if I'm going to do anything, I mean, this is, how many Scotland films have we done now? At least 3? At least 3 that I can think of at the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, that I can think of the top of my head. There's 4. But, I think it's about 4.
Yep, everyone, make sure to follow us on Instagram. We'll drop the movies that we're doing next on there.
Yep.
And if you have any films that you think we don't know about, send us a message. Are we on TikTok? Yeah,
we are on TikTok. Why are you asking me if we're on TikTok?
Well, because
of course
sometimes we do it and I forget. So yeah, we're
I
on
do
there
it
too.
all the time. I'm
So
up there TikToking my tits out. Like, it's TikToked.
If you want to see our episodes visually, kind of in a format that Ryan creates, it's on YouTube as well.
We do like little clips and stuff, and we put them online to incentivize you to want to listen to the whole thing. So yeah, you should go out there, listen to the little clips, because sometimes they're funny.
Sometimes.
So,
Otherwise,
you're just getting fucking information from a couple of folk who just love movies.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, coming to you from Balmoral.
Why? Why are we at Balmoral?
I don't know. Just because I wrote it down. Leave me alone.
Okay.
That's my part. I have been Laura.
I am Ryan, a Scotsman.
Wonderful. There he is.
All right, woman, let's go.